funds. How many of us have them? Funds. The ones you can depend on. Get those funds. Welcome to the Balance Your Books podcast. I'm Kimberly.
I'm April.
And I'm Keena.
And we're your balance partners.
Hey, ladies.
Hey.
Today. So you want to be starting something. Got to be starting something.
You say you want to be starting something. Got to be starting something.
Hey. So, yeah, shout out to MJ. Yes. All right. Welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about you want to start something. Thank you. If you are interested in learning more beyond our podcast, what do you do, Kimberly?
You can visit us at yourbalancepartners.com. You can send an email. You can call on our podcast, like, subscribe. And if you comment on our YouTube podcast, we will respond.
Which led to this topic being our next topic.
Yes.
So thank you for the comments.
Yay! Wah, 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 wah.
There was a question that asked, hey, I got a business idea. How do I want to start? So what is one of the first things they need to do, April?
Okay, well, first you have the idea.
Yes.
And then once you pass that point, you have to think about how you want to incorporate, if you even want to incorporate. I mean, do you want to just keep it as a sole proprietorship? Do you want to limit your liability? So then in that situation, you'd be looking at LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, partnerships potentially, although with partnerships, you have general partners who do have liability associated with the company, but the limited partnerships don't. So you have to look into, what do you want to do as far as that goes? Then when it comes to just forming it, starting with your state, looking at whether or not the name is even being used,
right.
Things of that nature. Yes. So those are just a couple.
Yeah, don't fall in love
things.
with the name until you check to see if the name is available.
Right. Because
so that
you
can
hate to
register
use a name and then somebody come along and say, oops, no, that's my business.
Correct.
Yes.
And they probably wouldn't come along until you started making a lot of money, right, where you could pay them to use their name.
Right. Exactly. And so maybe even before you decide whether it's your sole proprietorship or doing a business, how do you decide, Kimberly, who you want to be in business with?
Well, that's tricky. That's tricky because you want to make sure you're in business with people who have the same business mindset that you have. And one of the things that you can do to make sure you guys are on the same page is, I love to talk about governance and having the proper documents.
Yes.
So you want to go in business with people who are on the same page as you are. And sometimes you may just go in business by yourself.
And sometimes you may think you're on the same page, but you're actually not.
Yeah.
So a written document that allows everyone to have the same understanding of how are we going to run this business when it comes to profit, when it comes to loss, based off of whether or not you're putting in sweat equity or dollars,
Right.
all of that stuff comes into play especially when you're working with others.
Yes.
Right. And it's almost like going into a relationship, like a marriage, right?
Yes.
Because, you can go it tends to be, this is in generalization, but a lot of strong marriages start with going in counseling and really where they have you do that 1,000 questionnaire to find out things about each other. Like some people get married and didn't even know the other person didn't want children, like something really basic.
Right.
So when you're going into business with someone, you need to know, you may not need to know whether they want to have children, but you need to know like what is their philosophy around running a business and why are they there?
Right.
Are they there for the same reasons that you are? And then you have to be honest about what reasons you are in it for.
Right.
But
as well.
children actually are important.
Right.
Because they take up quite a bit of your time.
Yeah, yes. They
And
do.
so if someone intends on having a family soon, their place in the organization may look different, you know, based off of what their preferences are. You know, they may want to spend more time at home or what have you. So.
But building upon that analogy,
yes,
your business is your baby.
Yes.
yes,
And so you got to figure out your birthing plan for your baby. I'm going off the cuff because I've never done this with a baby. But you got to figure out your plan and be in agreement on how you're going to raise the baby. You know, so yeah. Yeah, you want to go into business with someone who has the same goals, same ideas as you do, and make sure you're aligned when you're going into business with someone. And then once you figure that out, based on how you want to run the business, how you feel about profit, how you want to share it, that's when you start thinking about, okay, what type of business are we going to have?
Right, right. So let's delve a little bit deeper into the different ways you can organize. So April, you talked for a second, you kind of listed them out. Let's just kind of do the high level ones, and then people can research to the detail level. But sole proprietor, LLC / S Corp, and C Corp. Maybe we just talk about at that level, those three. So what's the difference between sole proprietor and LLC and C Corp? Because you mentioned liability.
Well, when it comes to just a sole proprietorship, number one is just a Schedule C on your 1040. You can use your Social Security number. You don't actually have to get an EIN. You don't necessarily have to file with the state. You can, I can be April doing business as Keena.
Wouldn't that be controversial?
Yes. But to clarify, when you say you don't have to file with the state, you mean file documents to register your business with the state. Because I don't want anybody to think you don't have to file state taxes. You know, a lot of people think file.
Well, it's on your Schedule C, so it's on your individual return, which means when you file, if you are in a state that requires state filings, then that would be part of the process.
Right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Was there something else you wanted?
No, because but when you are a sole proprietor, what are the things that you still need to keep separate? Because it may come across to our audience that they can just have everything commingled if it's sole proprietor.
Well, when you run any business, you want to have some level of separation. But when it comes to sole proprietorship, even if you keep your business separate, does not mean that you've limited your liability. So that's one of the main aspects of having a sole proprietorship, is that you don't have that separation, whether you maintain it or not. Now, it's good to maintain it, because if you were ever in a situation where your business came into question from a legal perspective, then, you probably, it would help to show that, I guess. But that is one of the, I would say, when you're looking at a sole proprietorship and you're just starting off, that's one of the downsides, is that you don't have the limited liability that limited liability companies and corporations offer.
Yeah. And just to be clear for people, you can't be a sole proprietor and have more than one owner.
Sole.
Yeah.
just to be clear.
It's in the name,
Yes.
soul.
So now you've decided to have this baby with someone instead of having it on your own. So now you have a partner. So let's talk a little bit about the LLC S Corp, just that piece of it. Like what's the primary difference between the two?
Between
LLC,
an LLC
and S Corp.
and an S Corp?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I like LLCs. I don't know about you all.
Yeah.
One of the great things about a limited liability company is that you can actually, from a tax perspective, select to be taxed as an S Corp or as a C Corp. So that's one of the things I like about it. But when it comes to an S corporation, the things that I guess kind of hinder you as it relates to that is, you can't have any foreign investors. And so if we think about how in the past we've been a global economy, and that's been something we've all been interested in, doing business with the world, if someone were looking to invest with you, that would not be possible under an S corporation. You're also limited to, I believe, 100 kind of shareholders.
Yes.
And you can only have one class of stock. But it does allow for you to pass through and avoid some self-employment taxes. But, in the past, that was good. But because there wasn't so much pressure in terms of regulations requiring you to pay yourself a fair compensation as an owner.
Right.
So if you're not compensating yourself fairly, then that can be a red flag.
Yep.
If you're making $2 million, but you're only paying yourself $30,000, and the rest
They might look at you.
Yes.
through, yes, that would be a red flag. Now, whether or not somebody actually investigate that, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But so that's something different that in the several years ago, you could pass through a lot of money to yourself. Well, now you actually have to pay yourself appropriately, and then the remaining passes.
And you have to do that even if you're LLC and you're doing your tax return as an S corp.
yes,
Yes, just to be clear. Yes. And so Kimberly, because you've done a lot around C corps, what's that next tier up? What does
So,
that require?
The next tier up, the C Corp, is an entity in itself. So the C Corp is like an individual. There are some requirements. Again, you can look them up, but when you have a C Corp, you have to have board meetings at least annually. You have to have a board, even though if it's just you, you have to have a board, and you have to document these things. You have to have your articles of incorporation. There's a lot of documentation that you have to have for a C Corp, which is a corporation. And again, it is a totally separate entity. This C Corp, you would file a separate tax return. You don't attach your C Corp tax return to your 1040. It's an entity. So we had a client question about I have a C Corp and I'm working from home, and can I claim part of my home on my taxes? And it's like, no, your C Corp is a separate entity.
Yes.
Right? So the C Corp needs to have a home that it will have in its financial statements that will require expenses and things like this. It is an independent entity of yourself.
Yes.
So I do have a question though. Let's say it's just me. I'm a sole proprietor and I start my business. What if I want to bring someone on? Or what if I want to have foreign investors? I mean, what I'm getting at is you can start at one level, right?
Yes.
And move to another
Move
level.
to the
Yes.
next one. Yes. You can elevate. So you may start it by yourself, sole proprietor. You start off, you make this widget, you think it's cool, you start selling. You then may get other people who are interested in it, who now want to maybe invest or become partners, or and maybe they have other skill sets that would be great for your business to help your business grow. And so then you add them on, and so you say, okay, well let's now expand it to an LLC. Then maybe you get to the point where you want to get many shareholders and really do a capital raise, and then you want to go to the next level, S Corp, C Corp. So yes, you definitely can elevate your business over time.
The options are there, but you do have to start being careful if you're switching from an S Corp to a C Corp or a C Corp to an S Corp. There are tax
Implications. Yes.
that can really impact you. So,
Yes.
Sometimes when people start a business, it's, an interest of theirs. They're not really sure how it's going to go. But for others who are very strategic and know exactly what they want to do,
Yes.
it may be helpful to do like a 5-year plan, 3-year plan, 10-year plan. If you have an understanding of the industry to kind of project out what you anticipate on earning and
Yes.
what are the tax implications of that if you're a C Corp, if you're S Corp, if you're partnership.
Yeah.
You know, planning that out, I think would be very helpful for those who are have a better idea of what their business and their industry looks like.
Because it may be different, say, if you're opening a hair salon versus you've invented a widget. I just say a widget because whatever new amazing thing that someone creates.
Right.
Yeah.
And so those two things require very different investment and also require different ways to be organized, I would think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Most
Because of that.
definitely. And when you're getting into that is where we as CPAs and accountants, we would say, hey, make sure you get a good attorney.
Right.
To make sure you're drawing up your documents correctly and things like that. But always have a plan, regardless.
And leveraging your CPA to help you think through how to organize.
Yes.
Because another thing that we have seen is people between a for-profit and a nonprofit.
Yes.
So lately, I think I've talked to at least 2 or 3 clients that are like, okay, well, I've got my for-profit, but I also want to start this nonprofit. And one, trying to do both at the same time is a lot to set up. And then the other piece of it is making sure you understand what is the nonprofit for, because it's very, very mission based. There's usually it needs to be very contained around what is it that it's providing to society, right? How is it really qualifying to be a 501c3, which is a nonprofit, and versus a for-profit business where you're expecting to get money from it. And we've seen some situations where we've talked to some people and they start to describe their business, and it's like, seems like you care. Look, this sounds bad. Seems like you care more about society than making money.
And that's
which
a
is
good
great.
thing.
Which is
awesome.
good.
That
Which
is
is
awesome.
great. It's great. But that feels more like a nonprofit where you can get grants, you can apply for grants, you can apply, you can get donations, and you can get people who also believe in your mission to help you there. But for profit, you have to have something that people want to buy,
Yes.
right? That's the baseline, whether it's a service or a thing.
I mean, you need to be able to figure out, okay, what will it cost for me to serve the public in this way that I want to serve? But the goal is not to make as much money as you can. The goal is to serve the people as opposed to increasing your income.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
And you also want to make sure that you go through the process of getting approved to have a nonprofit.
Yes.
Because you can't just create one.
Right. You cannot.
Right.
There is an approval process, and you
Yes.
will find, I'm sure as people have who maybe had a great idea to give back to the world in one way or another, when it comes to actually getting donations, the first thing people are going to ask you is, what is your charitable
What's your
status?
status?
Right.
Because charitable contributions are deductible, and that's very important to
Tax
organization. Yeah, tax deductible. I'm sorry, for the people who are giving.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
Right. And they need record of that.
absolutely.
And so you have to have a formal process where you're able to either give them an award letter or a donation letter or things like that when it's a nonprofit. So you want to make sure that you really take the time to understand what type of organization you are setting up for sure. And so we got the organization overall. What are some of the primary things that you need on a for-profit? What are some of the primary things you need to get? Like One of them is EIN number. So an EIN number is the federal tax ID for your business. So typically you go to the state first, you get your business registered, then you get your EIN with the business registration name that you got approved. And you can get an EIN like in seconds,
Yes.
really. So it doesn't take long to get your EIN. So you do not need to pay somebody. I've seen some things out there that say, pay me $500 and I'll get your EIN set up and your state, something that literally if you had just taken an hour, you could have just done on your own and not paid anybody, even us, to do that for you.
Right.
Yes.
So you can do that yourself. It's very easy to do. And then you need to make some decisions after that. So those are kind of the baseline. Well, I would say the third thing, the baseline, is making sure that you get your bank account.
Oh, yes.
Right? So once you have your EIN and your state registration, you can get a bank account.
That's how
Yes.
you get a business
That's how you
bank
get
account.
your business bank account. And you want to get a business bank account. And we've talked about that in our previous podcast. So listen to those if you haven't, where we talk about cash and how your personal cash is not your business cash.
Yes.
Yes.
And how everything should be separate.
Yeah.
Right?
And I would add to that because I think that's a great point. And a lot of people, I don't know if they're familiar or not with the term piercing the corporate veil, but that is a serious issue where if you commingle your personal funds with your business funds, you are potentially, even as an LLC, S Corp, or C Corp, you're potentially putting yourself personally liable for the business debts. So you definitely want to make sure that there is separation and there's no commingling.
Can we talk a little bit about, because we've talked about limiting liability. Give me an example of why someone would want to do that. You kind of touched on it when you talked about personal versus the business debt. But why would I want to limit my liability?
Because everything that you had before you started the business, you want to keep.
Right.
And everything that you got when you started the business, you want to keep.
Right.
So, like if you're paying yourself through W-2, your house, your car, all of that stuff is your personal property.
So your savings accounts,
Right. However, should you commit fraud or should you commingle business and personal, where when somebody looks at your finances, they can't tell the difference and it goes to a court, then you're basically setting yourself up for a judge, an outside person, to say, hey, this is so commingled that you're liable.
Especially if you're
can't
trying to say,
separate
like if you may have debts in your business and you get sued and someone's trying to come after you and you're trying to say, I don't have anything, and you're sitting there at I don't know, in $1 million house, you might be out of it.
Right.
And back to the analogy, this is your prenup.
Yes.
It's your prenup.
Establishing, separating the liability is your prenup, so that if something goes wrong, they can't go after what you personally have and what you had before the business marriage.
Right. Because that mansion you bought and that new Mercedes you bought with COVID money. It's only a matter of time.
Tick. Let me tell you, that PPP, there's a few things we saw was like, it looks like PPP money.
All right.
And they're going to come for it.
Yes.
And they already did. They got a lot of people.
On another podcast, on a previous podcast, what I said was fraud has no time limit.
Yes.
No statute of limitations.
That's right.
They're coming for you.
So, all right. So you're starting something. We said, make sure that you really determine take the time to set up your business appropriately, right? Figure out which way you want to organize. You want to make sure that you've filed all the appropriate documents, gotten your EIN number, filed with the state, And then another podcast will get more into payroll and some of those other detailed things. But and then you also want to make sure you get a separate business account, keep everything separate, no commingling, get you a prenup.
Yeah.
All right. So you got your prenup, you got your baby, and then you'll decide whether your baby's in private school or public school, LLC or S corp. C corp is private school. Okay, so thank you, ladies, and now we're going to get into our shooting the. All right, topic of the day. So today we got on, we're kind of representing a little bit.
Yes.
We wanted to, shout out some Black-owned businesses that we support. We are entrepreneurs ourselves,
Yes.
clearly, because we have our own firm. But we also do some other things. So April, have you shout out yours first?
Yeah, so today I've got my wardrobe from Mark Dallas.
And what is Mark Dallas?
Mark Dallas is a clothing brand. It's all about luxury. I happen to be wearing one of the very first pullovers
Okay.
that the company came out with. So, but it's an awesome brand. Everyone will be seeing it soon if you're not already familiar with it. And so it's all about luxury, loungewear, comfort. And then
Style.
they have style, absolutely, because
Absolutely
the
style.
owner,
The owner
is so stylish.
I don't think I've ever seen him not stylish.
Not
Yes,
stylish,
quite
yes,
frankly.
yes. It is owned by a fabulous man with lots of style.
All
Hint,
right, right, exactly.
Yes.
Kimberly.
So I am a supporter of small business, Black business all around. I've got my teacup here. This is ILMB wear, and ILMB stands for I Love My Body.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
And it's a beautiful organization. She has fitness wear and other things. And what I love is her sign is the butterfly.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and so if you ever see me with
butterfly.
sail across the waters.
You know what
Anyway,
I'm
so
saying. Oh, Lord.
yes, my T-shirt I got from an actress that I love, who is this owner is one of my sorors. T-shirt, another soror. Brandy, who is on P-Valley. She plays Mercedes. And she cares for her mom. And this is her
Okay.
T-shirts that she sells for that.
Okay.
Yes.
And then my rings, shop Kamawe. That's another place.
Yes.
So always
So you are
supporting
just decked out.
small businesses.
out.
I love it. I love it. Yes.
I agree. Well, wait. So I just wore the shirt that said just minding my Black-owned business in general, which came from
Kiki's Creations.
Kiki's Creations.
A good friend of ours.
Who does all of our shirts, so definitely check her out. And then, I am an owner of a bakery, Cocoa Cakes by Coco, here in Atlanta, and you can also get nationwide shipping, cococakesbycoco.com. And so really, maybe just the importance of why is this important to us? We're shouting out some businesses. We, Your Balance Partners, why we started this particular company was to support all businesses, Black-owned businesses, all small businesses. But it's really about making sure that you're doing things for your community.
Yes,
Yes, yes,
absolutely.
And even and if I can shop small, I do.
Oh, most definitely.
And your dollars are powerful, and your dollars matter. Every single dollar, no matter where you are in the income bracket, be intentional about how you spend your dollars.
And for the most part, anytime I'm out and about and I'm wearing clothes, it's coming from a small business.
Yeah.
And so clothes, jewelry, I try my best to shop small and support the smaller business, because the big ticket ones, they're getting their money. But I think that the community is supported by small business. small businesses give back to the community. And when we support small businesses, we're giving back to the community.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you can get some cute stuff.
Very
Yes,
cute stuff.
yes.
Oh yes, very cute stuff.
Yes.
So if we are wearing or showcasing a small business, let's tag them.
Yes.
We can tag them in the podcast or on our social so that
Mm-hmm.
everyone can buy what we buy. If you like it, we'll tell you how to get it.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Ooh,
Exactly.
lipstick by the Lip Bar.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
There we go. Another soror. Ooh, we
Yes.
do it.
Which sorority, Kimberly?
Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Okay.
Right. Just in case anybody did miss that on the previous podcast.
Right.
All right. Well, want to be starting something? Get out there. Believe in yourself. You can do it.
Yes.
It's work. But anything that's worthy, anything that matters, you put your sweat into it.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
It will be a roller coaster ride, but the great thing about roller coasters is you get on and you get off.
Lord
And
willing.
you've had a good time.
And most times you want to get back on again.
Exactly.
Again, Lord willing. All right.
It's not for the weak, it's for the strong.
All
you got to
right.
have a strong stomach in business.
That's
You sure
true.
do. You sure do. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Make sure you subscribe. Again, Balance Your Books podcast. You can check it out in your favorite podcast location and share it with others. And we really appreciate it. And thank you for your time.